Beloved chosen one, you did the right thing even though it cost you comfort, familiarity, and people who once felt like home. You walked away from what was easier because something inside you refused to stay quiet. That decision did not happen on a stage. It happened in silence. In a moment where no one was cheering, no one validating you, no one promising it would turn out well. Yet you still chose what was clean over what was convenient. The everyday pain you are carrying right now is doing the right thing and losing something real because of it. Not a dramatic loss, but a practical one. A paycheck that stopped coming. A relationship that went cold. A family member who now keeps their distance. A workplace where your integrity made others uncomfortable. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't accuse anyone. You simply stepped back and suddenly, you were standing alone. You remember the exact moment. Maybe it was late at night, scrolling through your phone, realizing no one had checked on you. Maybe it was standing in the kitchen, bills on the counter, wondering if honesty had just made your life harder. Maybe it was hearing your name mentioned differently with less warmth because you no longer played along. That ache in your chest that wasn't weakness. That was the cost of choosing truth over approval. And the hardest part, heaven felt quiet afterward. You prayed, but there was no thunder. You waited, but nothing immediately changed. That silence tempted you to question yourself. Did I overreact? Did I misunderstand God? Was this even worth it? These questions are not rebellion. They are the aftershock of courage. Hear this clearly, you are not in a losing season, you are in a hidden season. There is a difference. Losing strips you without purpose. Hidden seasons preserve you while God works behind the scenes. Like a seed buried deep in soil. Everything about your current position looks like abandonment, but it is actually placement. Soil feels like darkness until roots begin to form. You did not imagine the resistance that followed your choice. When you stopped compromising, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations ended faster. Smiles became forced. Support became conditional. This is how you know your decision mattered. Light always exposes what was benefiting from darkness. Let me ask you directly, if the reward does not come immediately, will you still honor the decision you made? Because this is where many turn back. Not because they were wrong, but because waiting feels humiliating. Yet Scripture does not say God rewards what is loud. He rewards what is faithful when no one is watching. The words of Jesus himself are recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Read that again slowly. He sees, he is unseen, and he rewards. Your choice was not public, but it was witnessed. The room you cried in, the conversation you walked away from, the temptation you resisted when it would have benefited you financially or emotionally. None of it was invisible to God. You were not overlooked. You were recorded. Right now, favor is not arriving with fireworks. It is assembling quietly. It is God speaking your name in rooms you are not allowed into yet. It is people being moved out of your path without explanation. It is delays that are actually protection. One day soon, something will not work out, and later you will realize it saved you from a trap you couldn't see. Picture this: a door opens that you didn't knock on. An opportunity finds you when you're no longer chasing. A person advocates for you without you asking. And suddenly, the season where you felt forgotten will make sense. You will understand why you couldn't carry certain people forward. You will see that your loneliness was not punishment, it was preparation. But before that moment comes, there is a posture to maintain. Do not become bitter. Do not rehearse your sacrifice. Do not demand recognition. The same humility that led you to make the right choice is what qualifies you to receive the reward. Favor flows best through clean hands and a quiet heart. If you are listening to this and something inside you is nodding, if you know, deep down, this is exactly what I just lived through, then do not scroll past it. Like this message. Share it with someone who chose integrity and is now questioning themselves. And subscribe so you stay connected to what God is unfolding next. And at the end, as a simple sign of agreement, comment 77 below, not to prove anything to anyone, but as a quiet declaration between you and God. I did the right thing, and I trust you with the outcome. These quiet moments shape the soul. In hidden prayer, courage is formed, clarity is given, and obedience deepens. What is unseen by others becomes strength within, preparing the heart to walk faithfully when doors open and the world watches on. Mary was not standing on a stage when she said yes. There were no witnesses, no applause, no explanation given to soften what would follow. She was a young woman in an ordinary place, carrying an ordinary life, when an extraordinary interruption arrived. Fear came first, confusion followed, and then a choice quiet, irreversible, costly. She did not negotiate the terms. She did not ask for guarantees. She simply bowed her will, as it is written in the Gospel of Luke, Chapter 1, mods. Verse 38, I am the Lord's servant. Mary answered, may your word to me be fulfilled. That sentence was not poetry. It was surrender without a safety net. Mary's yes did not protect her reputation. It did not make her life easier. It did not come with immediate understanding from the people closest to her. In fact, it placed her directly in danger of misunderstanding, judgment, and loss. She would be questioned. She would be whispered about. She would have to live inside a story no one else could fully believe. And yet, she said yes anyway. This section is for the everyday pain of agreeing to something you can't yet explain. You know this pain. It shows up when you make a decision that feels right in your spirit but looks irresponsible to everyone else. When you leave a path others expected you to follow. When you sense a direction shift that doesn't come with a map. You don't have the language for it yet, but you feel the weight of it settling into your life. Like Mary, you are still going to the market, still waking up to chores, still answering questions from people who don't know what God whispered to you. Nothing around you changes immediately, but everything inside you has. There is a very real, very human moment after a quiet yes, when doubt begins to circle. Did I hear correctly? Did I imagine this? Why does this feel so lonely if it came from God? Mary likely had that moment too. Scripture does not romanticize her path. It leaves room for silence, for walking forward without clarity, for trusting without control. And that is where your story meets hers. Your yes may not look spiritual on the outside. It may look like declining an offer, staying single when pressure mounts, turning down a shortcut, starting over quietly, continuing to show up when quitting would earn you sympathy. These are not headline decisions, but they reshape destinies. The pain here is not rejection, it is exposure. When you say yes to God, your life becomes visible in a new way. People watch more closely. Some hope you fail so they can feel justified staying where they are. Others pull back because your obedience confronts their comfort. This is not cruelty, it is contrast. Mary carried promise before she carried proof. Long before anyone saw the miracle, she bore the weight, mourning sickness without explanation. A growing body that invited questions she could not answer. Joseph's silence, the risk of being misunderstood by the very people she loved. And still she kept walking. Here is the hope embedded in this kind of pain. God entrusts quiet assignments to people who don't need constant affirmation. He places world-changing beginnings in ordinary lives because humility keeps the vessel clean. The miracle did not start in Bethlehem. It started in consent. Ask yourself honestly, can you carry something sacred without needing everyone to understand it? Because this season is not about speed, it is about formation. What God is doing in you now must be protected from noise. Explanations too early can expose what is still fragile. Even Mary pondered these things in her heart. She didn't post them. She didn't announce them. She held them. Your life right now may feel small compared to the weight of what you sense inside. That tension is intentional. Seeds crack before they grow. Stretching hurts before strength appears. The promise doesn't rush to prove itself, it develops. Notice how Mary's yes did not remove hardship, but it did anchor her. When the journey became uncomfortable, she could return to that moment of surrender. I said yes, not because it was easy, but because it was true. That same anchor is forming in you. You may not see the full picture yet. You may only be holding one sentence from God, one nudge, one conviction you couldn't shake. That is enough. History bends around people who obey without spectacle. There will come a day when what you are carrying becomes visible, when questions turn into awe, when confusion turns into clarity. But before that day arrives, you are learning how to walk faithfully without validation, how to trust the unseen work of God over the visible opinions of people. Mary's yes reshaped the world, but it began as a private surrender. So does yours. And when the world finally recognizes what you carried in silence, you will not need to defend the season that broke you open. You will stand steady, knowing that the quiet yes you whispered long ago became the doorway through which God changed everything. There is a particular kind of pain that doesn't come from loss, but from pressure without explanation. Nothing is technically wrong, yet everything feels heavier. Your responsibilities weigh more than they used to. Your patience runs thinner. Small things irritate you in ways that surprise even yourself. You wonder why life feels tighter, more demanding, more compressed, like the walls are slowly moving inward. This is the pain of being stretched beyond your previous capacity. In everyday life, it looks like this: you're doing the same job, but it drains you more. You're in the same family, but conversations feel harder. You pray the same prayers, but they don't comfort the way they once did. It's not because you're failing. It's because the version of you that fit that old space no longer exists. You are growing, and growth always creates friction. Think of a wineskin. When it's full but not expanded, pressure builds from the inside. If the skin doesn't stretch, it breaks. What feels like stress is often preparation. God does not expand your future by shrinking your life. He expands you so you can hold what's coming without leaking, panicking, or collapsing. But here's where the pain sharpens. Stretching is invisible to others. From the outside, people assume you're the same. They still expect the same availability, the same tolerance, the same output. They don't see the internal reworking. They don't know your spiritual muscles are being torn so they can rebuild stronger. And because they don't see it, they may judge you for changing. You might hear things like, "You're not like you used to be," or "Why are you so serious now?" or "You've changed." And they're right, but not in the way they think. You didn't become colder. You became clearer. You didn't lose joy. You gained weight-bearing strength. The pain here is misinterpretation, being misunderstood while becoming more grounded. There's a scene many people know too well, sitting in your car after a long day. Engine off, phone in your hand. staring at nothing for a few extra minutes before going inside. Not because you're avoiding home, but because you're recalibrating. Gathering yourself, making sure you don't pour stress onto people who didn't cause it. That pause is not weakness. It's maturity under construction. The ancient words recorded in the letter to the Romans, chapter 5, verse 4. Speak to this process with unsettling honesty, and perseverance produces character, and character, hope. Notice the order. Perseverance comes first, then character, then hope. Hope is not handed out cheaply, it's forged. Character is not built in comfort, it's shaped under sustained pressure. You don't wake up strong, you become strong by staying when leaving would have been easier. Ask yourself this: what if this pressure is not meant to break you, but to redefine you? Because the stretching you're experiencing now is making room for authority later. Authority not rooted in ego, but in endurance. People who haven't been stretched can talk loudly, but they can't carry weight. You're being trained to carry weight without dropping it on others. Here's the hope image: picture fabric being pulled tight across a frame. At first, it resists. Threads strain. It looks like it might tear. But once it settles, it holds its shape with strength it never had before. Wind can hit it. Rain can beat against it, and it doesn't collapse, it holds. That is what is happening to you. This season is teaching you restraint, discernment, and depth. It's teaching you how to respond instead of react, how to stay steady while others spin, how to remain kind without being porous. These are not soft skills. They are survival tools for the calling ahead. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's lonely at times. Growth almost always isolates before it integrates. But this isolation is temporary. The version of you being formed now will recognize the right people later, people who don't drain you, rush you, or misunderstand your boundaries. One day you'll notice something subtle. What used to overwhelm you no longer does. The same pressure that once made you anxious will feel manageable. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And you'll realize this season was not punishment. It was reinforcement. Before we move forward, I want you to do something simple but intentional. In the comments, write this short sentence: I am stretching. Now let me explain why. You're not declaring strain, you're acknowledging transformation. You're naming the process instead of resisting it. Words matter. When you name what's happening, you stop internalizing shame and start recognizing purpose. This isn't burnout. This isn't failure. This is expansion. And expansion always feels tight before it feels powerful. Stay with it. When you write, I am stretching, you are not admitting weakness, Wojato. You are naming a season where your inner capacity is being enlarged. Stretching means you are still flexible, still responsive, still willing to grow instead of hardening under pressure. That sentence also places you in process, not in judgment. You are not broken, late, or failing, you are mid-formation. Stretching means resistance exists, but so does purpose. It reminds you that discomfort is temporary, while the strength being built will remain. Opposition did not rise because you became weaker. It rose because you stopped being predictable. The moment you stepped out of the pattern people were comfortable with, friction appeared, not loud at first, subtle. A shift in tone, a pause before replies, questions that sounded innocent but carried suspicion underneath. This is where many people lose their footing. Not because the opposition is strong, but because the urge to explain becomes overwhelming. The everyday pain in this season is being misunderstood and wanting to correct the story immediately. You know this moment well. Someone questions your decision in a group chat. A coworker hints that you're difficult now. A family member says, "You've changed," but not as a compliment. Your chest tightens, your mind races, you rehearse explanations in your head, believing that if you just say the right thing, everything will settle. But this is where wisdom looks counterintuitive. There are seasons when explaining too early actually weakens your position. Not because truth is fragile, but because it needs timing. This is the practice of delayed defense, not silence born of fear, but restraint born of clarity. Think of it like carrying a fragile glass object through a crowded room. If you lift it high and announce it too soon, it draws attention and risk. But if you hold it close, steady, protected, you reach the destination intact. Some things don't need defending, they need arrival. The ancient words recorded in the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, verse 4, offer unsettling guidance. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. This is not an insult, it's instruction. Not every challenge deserves your voice. Not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. When you rush to explain, you often step into someone else's emotional weather instead of staying grounded in your own assignment. Here is how delayed defense looks in real life. At work, it means you don't over-justify your decisions in meetings. You state what needs to be done, calmly, and let results speak. You stop filling silence with nervous explanations. Silence is not empty, it's spacious. Let others feel it. In relationships, it means you don't chase people who pull back. You don't send long messages trying to clarify your intentions. You allow time to reveal truth. Those who want understanding will come with questions, not accusations. In family dynamics, it means you don't argue with labels placed on you. You don't try to convince them you're still the same. You stay respectful, consistent, and let your steadiness dismantle their assumptions. Delayed defense is not passivity, it's discipline. Imagine a mountain during a storm. Wind howls, rain lashes. The mountain does not respond. It does not explain its height. It does not argue with the clouds. It simply remains. And because it remains, the storm eventually moves on. This practice also protects your energy. Every explanation costs something: attention, emotion, focus. When you explain prematurely, you spend strength on people who may never receive it. Delayed defense teaches you to invest your voice where it can actually land. Ask yourself this question honestly: am I explaining to be understood or explaining to be accepted? Because those are not the same. Seeking understanding is healthy. Seeking acceptance at the cost of self-betrayal is not. Opposition often tempts you to trade clarity for comfort. Delayed defense keeps you from making that exchange. Here is the hopeful image: think of fruit on a tree. If you pluck it too early to prove it exists, it will be sour. But if you let it mature quietly, no explanation is needed, its sweetness speaks for itself. The opposition you face now is not a demand for proof. It's pressure testing, and then you are passing by, not reacting. There will come a moment when someone says, "I get it now." Or maybe they won't say anything at all, but their behavior will change. Doors will open, resistance will soften. Not because you argued well, but because you stood firm without becoming hard. This section is an invitation to trust timing over tension. If this teaching resonates, if you feel relief realizing you don't have to explain yourself today, then let this message travel. Like it so it finds others standing in the same pressure. Share it with someone who is exhausted from defending their choices. And subscribe to stay connected, because what's ahead requires not just courage, but discernment. You are learning when to speak and when to let silence do the work. Delayed defense does not mean your truth is weak. It means your truth is patient. You are allowing it to mature in real time. under real conditions until it can stand on its own. What grows slowly grows deep, and depth cannot be shaken by noise. When you stop explaining, you reclaim authority over your inner world. You decide where your words go and where they do not. That restraint sharpens discernment, strengthens boundaries, and prepares you for moments when your voice will matter most. There is a specific kind of pain that settles in when you have done everything you know how to do, and nothing moves. You're not rebelling. You're not careless. You're not running from responsibility. You are simply standing in front of a door that will not open, no matter how many times you test the handle. And the longer you stand there, the more dangerous the thoughts become. Maybe I missed my chance. Maybe I waited too long. Maybe this was never meant for me. This section speaks to the everyday pain of being blocked despite being faithful. In ordinary life, it looks like unanswered applications. Conversations that go well but lead nowhere. Plans that collapse at the last minute. You do your part. You show up prepared. You stay consistent and still. Progress feels withheld. The frustration isn't dramatic, it's draining. It erodes confidence slowly like water wearing down stone. What makes this pain sharper is comparison. You see others move forward with less effort. Doors seem to swing open for them while yours remain sealed. And if you're honest, you've wondered whether integrity costs too much, whether waiting clean was a mistake. But here is the truth that changes how you stand in front of closed doors. Not every closed door is rejection. Some are protection, and others are timing locks. You don't force a door that is meant to open from the inside. You don't break into a room you're meant to be invited into. Forced entry always damages what you're about to inherit. The voice of Scripture speaks with authority on this exact tension. As Jesus declared in the Gospel of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 7, "What he opens no one can shut, and what he shuts no one can open." That sentence removes pressure from your shoulders. It tells you that access is not ultimately decided by systems, people, or luck. There are doors no human approval can grant and doors no human resistance can stop. Here's the image to hold on to. Imagine an old building with heavy iron doors, sealed not by rust but by design. Inside, the structure is being reinforced, floors strengthened, foundations secured. If the door opened too early, the weight inside would collapse the space. Delay isn't denial, it's construction. You may feel stalled, but something is being made ready for you. Ask yourself this directly. What if the delay is not about your worth, but about the weight of what's coming? Because some opportunities require a version of you that can sustain them. Influence without grounding corrupts. Access without preparation destroys. God does not open doors that would crush you on entry. Notice how your discernment has sharpened in this waiting season. You tolerate less. You see motives more clearly. You're no longer impressed by speed alone. That is not bitterness, that is maturity forming under restraint. The hope here is very practical. One day you will walk into a space where things move quickly but peacefully, where permission is assumed, where resistance is absent. You won't need to push, prove, or posture. You'll know you belong because nothing fights your presence. And here's the quiet miracle when the right door opens. The energy you once spent knocking will be used to build. What exhausted you before will not be required then. Grace will match access. Until that moment, your role is not to pace in frustration. It is to stay ready without becoming restless. Readiness looks like sharpening skills, keeping character clean, and resisting the urge to take shortcuts that feel like relief, but lead to smaller rooms. Shortcuts always offer speed in exchange for ceiling height. This season is teaching you to wait without shrinking, to trust without numbing out, and that is not passive. It is disciplined hope. If you are listening and you know this is your season standing before doors that won't budge, mark this moment. In the comments, write the number 4444, not as superstition, but as structure. It represents foundation, stability, and patience under construction. Writing it is a way of saying, I will not force what must open rightly. Stay steady. The door that carries your future does not need to be kicked in. It will open fully, cleanly, and at the right moment. When you write 444, you are not trying to speed anything up. You are choosing stability over panic. That number represents structure being laid where you cannot yet see walls. It reminds you that waiting is not empty time, it is load-bearing time. 4 stands for foundation, and repeating it reinforces endurance. By writing 444, you are aligning your mind with patience that holds. You are telling yourself, I will not trade a strong future for quick relief. What is being built will last. This number also grounds your emotions when comparison creeps in. Instead of asking why others move faster, you return to the work beneath your feet. Foundations are poured quietly, unseen, but they determine everything that rises above them. There is a quieter pain that arrives after breakthrough begins, not before. It's the pain of realizing that what you asked for now requires protection. You thought the hard part was getting here. You didn't expect the weight that comes with having something to lose. This section is for the everyday pain of learning how to carry blessing without leaking it. In daily life, it shows up subtly. Your schedule fills faster. More people want access to you. Opinions surround your decisions. You feel pulled in different directions, not by temptation alone, but by opportunity. Good things compete with necessary things, and suddenly peace becomes harder to keep than it was when you had less. You notice it in small moments. You say yes when you meant to say maybe. You stay longer than you should. You explain more than is required. You feel irritation rise not because others are wrong, but because your inner space is thinning. This is not ingratitude. It's a signal. Blessing changes the environment around you. What once felt like favor can quickly feel like exposure if it's not guarded. And guarding does not mean suspicion, it means stewardship. You don't leave the door wide open in a storm, not because you fear the rain, but because you respect what's inside. The pain here is overextension, giving too much of yourself to too many voices until clarity blurs. Here is where wisdom becomes essential. Growth seasons teach endurance. Blessing seasons teach restraint. It takes strength to build, but it takes discernment to maintain. Many people lose what they prayed for, not through rebellion, but through neglect. They didn't protect the soil after the seed broke ground. Scripture speaks directly into this moment, according to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Notice the phrasing, above all else. Not after everything else, not when convenient. Guarding your inner world is not optional once increase arrives. Your heart is the source, and sources must be protected from contamination. Think of a well in a village. When it's shallow, few people draw from it. When it's deep and reliable, many come. If boundaries aren't established, debris enters. The water becomes compromised not because it was bad, but because it was unguarded. You are learning how to draw lines without building walls. This may feel uncomfortable at first. You're used to being available. You're used to accommodating. But the season ahead requires you to choose presence over pressure. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because something is good doesn't mean it's yours to carry. Ask yourself this directly. What am I protecting by saying no right now? Because every no given wisely protects a yes that matters. Blessing doesn't mean unlimited access, it means increased responsibility. Responsibility to rest, to listen, to remain rooted. Here is the hopeful image. Imagine a flame in open air. When left exposed, wind weakens it. But when cupped gently by steady hands, it grows stronger, brighter, more stable. You are not hiding your light, you are shielding it until it can stand on its own. This season teaches you how to slow your reactions, how to pause before responding, how to discern when something pulls you off center, even if it looks productive. Productivity without peace always extracts a hidden cost. You may need to simplify, fewer conversations, fewer commitments, more margin, not because you're retreating, but because you're consolidating strength. Farmers don't harvest and plant at the same time. Seasons don't overlap, they transition. The blessing in your life right now is not meant to exhaust you. If it does, something needs adjusting. Alignment is not about perfection, it's about rhythm. Breathing in, breathing out, knowing when to engage and when to withdraw. Soon guarding will feel less like effort and more like instinct. You'll sense when something doesn't belong. You'll feel when your peace starts draining. And instead of pushing through, you'll step back confident, not guilty. That confidence is not arrogance, it's maturity. You are not becoming distant, you are becoming deliberate. And what you protect now will be what sustains you later. Guarding what you carry will eventually feel natural, like locking the door at night without fear. You won't second-guess yourself as much. You'll trust the quiet signals inside you. That confidence grows when you see peace remain, even as demands increase around you. At first, restraint may feel like loss, but it is actually refinement. You are learning what deserves your energy and what drains it. This clarity keeps resentment from forming and burnout from taking root. Protection is not withdrawal, it is wise placement. What you preserve in this season will preserve you in the next. Strength that is maintained lasts longer than strength that is constantly spent. By guarding your heart now, you ensure that what God has placed in your hands continues to grow without being damaged by unnecessary weight. You are not pulling back in fear, you are stabilizing in wisdom. What remains protected will mature, deepen, and endure. This season secures your future by teaching you how to hold blessing without losing yourself. There comes a moment not loud, not announced, when you realize you are no longer walking just to survive. You are walking because you have been sent. The road under your feet feels different now, not easier, but steadier. Not free of fear, but free of confusion. You are not guessing who you are anymore. You are carrying it. This final pain is subtle and rarely named, the ache of responsibility after transformation. When you finally become who you prayed to be, you discover that crowns carry weight. You can't move the way you used to. You can't speak carelessly. You can't return to ignorance, and sometimes you miss the simplicity of not knowing. In everyday life, this looks like restraint where you once reacted. It looks like discernment replacing impulse. It looks like people seeking your counsel when you once begged for theirs. You feel the quiet pressure of being watched not with envy, but with expectation, and that can feel lonely. But this loneliness is different. It is not abandonment, it is separation for purpose. You did not arrive here by accident. Every closed door, every misunderstood season, every silent victory shaped your spine. You learned how to stand without applause. You learned how to wait without decaying. You learned how to protect what was sacred, and now something has shifted. Something has. You are no longer just healing, you are bearing witness. The ancient words spoken through the Apostle Paul echo with clarity for this moment. As we are reminded in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. A crown is not decoration, it is recognition of endurance. You are crowned not because you were perfect, but because you stayed, because you did not sell your integrity for speed, because you did not harden your heart when life demanded more of you. This crown does not sit on your head, it settles into your character. And with it comes direction. Being sent does not always mean going far. Sometimes it means standing firm where you are, speaking gently where others shout, holding space where others abandon. Your presence becomes the message. Your consistency becomes the proof. Here is the hope image. Imagine a lighthouse at night. It does not chase ships. It does not explain itself. It simply stands, illuminated, steady, and because it stands, others find their way. That is what you are becoming. Ask yourself this final question. If your life is now a signal, what is it pointing toward? You are not meant to retreat into comfort, but neither are you meant to burn yourself out trying to save everyone. You are sent with boundaries, with wisdom, with humility. You walk forward knowing that impact flows best from alignment, not urgency. There will still be challenges ahead, but you are no longer surprised by resistance. You understand its language now. You don't panic when storms rise. You adjust your sails. You keep moving. And there is something beautiful about this stage. Your obedience no longer feels forced. It feels chosen, voluntary, like waking before dawn, not because you have to, but because something meaningful is waiting. If this message has walked with you through these sections like a companion on a long road, then treat it the way you treat something that mattered. If it felt like a hand on your shoulder, you may choose to press the small flame beneath it, letting it glow brighter so others can see. That is what it means to like this message. If you know someone still wandering in earlier sections, still doubting, still waiting, passing this along is like setting a lantern on their path. That is what it means to share. And if you wish to keep walking this road together, not as noise, but as quiet guidance, you may step closer to the fire and stay. That is what it means to subscribe. You do not rush forward from this place. You rise with quiet certainty. The road ahead does not need you to prove anything. Every step you take now carries the weight of knowing who you are and why you are here. When you look back, you will not measure success by how fast you moved, but by how faithfully you remained. What you carry into the future is not fear, but purpose, steady, refined, and ready to be lived. Finally, if your heart recognizes this moment not as hype, but as home, leave a mark below. Not a comment of noise, but a simple trace that says, I am ready to walk forward. Let it be your stone placed on the altar of remembrance. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming yourself without fear. You were faithful in the hidden places. Now you are sent steady, crowned, and clear. This is where the words loosen their grip and return the journey to you. Not with a command, not with a conclusion wrapped too tightly, but with space, because what matters most cannot be forced. Some messages are not meant to be consumed and discarded. They are meant to be carried quietly, like a stone warmed in your pocket, taken out only when needed. If something in this passage steadied you, you already know it. You felt it in your breath slowing, in your shoulders lowering, in the way a sentence stayed with you longer than expected. That is not persuasion. That is recognition. When truth meets the right season, it does not shout, it settles. And if nothing stirred, that is also honest. Not every word is for every moment. Sometimes a message passes by like wind through trees, leaving only the memory of movement. You are allowed to let it go without guilt. What is not yours today may be someone else's lifeline. But if even one image lingered, one line, one metaphor, one quiet realization, keep that. You do not need the whole message. Growth often begins with a fragment. A single sentence can become a compass when the road bends unexpectedly. You may choose to pass this along, not as an obligation, but as an offering. Like leaving a note on a bench you once needed yourself. Or you may choose silence, allowing what touched you to work inwardly, unseen, shaping your next step before you take it. Both choices are valid. Both are complete. This ending does not close a door. It leaves it ajar. Somewhere ahead, you will recognize when to move, when to speak, when to remain still, and when that moment arrives, you will not need these words again because they will have already done their work. For now, walk gently, carry only what fits. Leave the rest behind.